Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, January 28. If you are watching live on Monday, January 28, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. Our call-in number is 769-1677. Our next meeting is a work session on Monday, February 4 at 7 p.m. and our next regular meeting is on Monday, February 11 at 8 p.m. with a work session beginning at 7. As always, you can watch us on Verizon or Cablevision cable TV, and also on both live webcasting and on-demand webcasting thereafter at pctv76.org. And a couple of announcements to make. The first is a housekeeping announcement, which is that all of us have received and have noted the village treasurer's list of unpaid taxes as of the date January 24, 2013. It's a modest list, but it does run on for 10 pages, and we encourage anybody who is in tax arrears to catch up as quickly as they can. That is a list that is required by law to be filed. So just be reminded, taxes are due at the end of May and at the end of December, and so if you didn't pay your village taxes in the second half in December, you're on that list, and it would be much appreciated if you would get yourself off it. Anybody who's been wandering around lately notices that we have begun an emergency sewer repair project right outside the police department entrance here on Bedford Road, right adjacent to the train overpass. Patty, you want to describe the progress of that and what we can expect over the next days and week?
Thank you, Mayor. If the weather cooperates, we should be finished by Thursday this week. We've reached the area that we needed to gain access to in order to replace a portion of the sewer main that extends parallel to Wheeler Avenue behind our building all the way down, toward Manville Road. So it unfortunately was 14 feet deep and under at least 6 to 8 feet of concrete because of the county's requirements, and we're working with a bridge abutment, we're working around gas mains, and we're working around T1 lines that are under the sidewalk, so it's been a pretty delicate operation outside. And as I said, I think most of the difficult work is behind them now. It's just a matter of getting down with the bucket and getting in there and getting the flanges on and cutting out the sewer lines. So we're getting closer. We do expect a lot of rain on Wednesday. It may actually, cause us to go into Thursday or Friday, but it looks like we're closer to the end than we were when we started this last week.
Okay, thank you for that. It's 16 feet deep or something we have to dig, so it's just about the worst possible place to end up with a sewer main break, and there you have it. I mentioned at the last meeting that I was going to attend a Mayor's Advocacy Day in Washington, D.C. that was organized by the Mayors Against Illegal Guns, which is an organization I joined shortly after the Newtown tragedy. And I did go to Washington a week ago Wednesday. I went there at my own expense, not yours, and have a number of things to report. More to talk both with the board and at future board meetings down the road, but we spent the morning with a series of briefings that were given to about 65 or 70 mayors from across the country who attended this, reporting both about the statistics and the research that has been done about various gun issues and gun control issues, as well as the opinions of people in various parts of the country about these kinds of steps that have been discussed. And then in the afternoon we were each given a schedule and wandered around the congressional office buildings to the offices of senators and congressmen, primarily meeting with their legislative assistants who were in charge of these issues, but in a few cases meeting with the congressperson themselves. I visited Nita Lowey's office. She was there and met us and talked at some length. I was together with Mayor Tom Roach from White Plains on that visit, and I also visited Senator Gillibrand's office and the office of Chris Gibson, who's the congressional district a bit to the north of us. An interesting day, lots more to be said. I won't go into it right now, but two pieces of information that I think are worth people being aware of, and one of them is that the current arrangements, although they differ from state to state. On a federal level, sales of guns over the internet and through private sellers are not subject to background checks. So it's believed that somewhere between 40 and 50% of the guns that are sold annually in the United States are purchased entirely without background checks. So if you somebody wants to buy a gun in a licensed dealer or a store, they go through a background check that is run through Washington through the National Instant, it's called NICS, National Instant Criminal Background Check System. And remarkably, well over 1 million people attempted gun purchases have been rejected by that system because they were on the list of prohibited purchasers by reason of felony conviction or a series of other things that make you a prohibited buyer. So that same person who would be declined through the background check at a regular gun shop can buy a gun at a gun show through a private dealer or over the internet with no background check at all. So that, I think, certainly strikes me as low-hanging fruit that could be improved. And I think the statistics based on the polling that have been done suggest that a very, very high percentage of Americans and a very high percentage of gun owners and a very high percentage of NRA members are in agreement that fixing that would be a wise thing for the country to do. So there is a law that is in discussion in Congress right now called the Fix Gun Checks Act. It was originally submitted by Representative Maloney from Long Island. It has been signed on by many co-sponsors, and any of you who are concerned about this, I think, would be well advised to let their congressional representatives know that the Fix Gun Check Act is a matter of concern to you, and it would be helpful, I think, for people not only here but everywhere to be aware of those kinds of issues and weigh in on them. So there are other issues that the Mayors Against Illegal Guns are working on, and we'll choose an occasion when it makes sense to fill people in on it. Obviously, there are lots of aspects of the gun debate that reasonable people can disagree on, but interestingly, the polling statistics that have been generated so far indicate that something like 90% of Americans, 90% of gun owners, and 74% of NRA members support mandatory criminal background checks for gun sales. So that feels like a step that all of us could support. Our farm market continues to be a great success. The new winter farm market, which takes place in the middle school cafeteria, that's every Saturday from 9 to 1, or is it 8:30? 9 to 1.
9 because of the school.
Yeah, 9 to 1 in the middle school cafeteria. It's really been a great success. It's a great place, all kinds of interesting stuff that you can buy, not only fresh produce, but also meat and chicken, eggs, cheeses, bread of all kinds, and on a rotating basis, some other kinds of foodstuffs. So we now have a farm market almost year-round. Get yourself up to the middle school cafeteria on Saturday mornings. Anybody else have something they wanted to add?
Well, I just would add that if you look at the other indoor farmers markets around, our farmers market has more product than any other market in Westchester County. Say that with confidence.
I just wanted to add, too, that if you drive by the old MLA building, Henkel's has started their deconstruction of the site, and there'll be a lot more activity going on in the months to come.
Extraordinarily good news for all of us. Henkel at one point was considering raising the roof and maintaining the existing structure for a whole series of reasons that turned out to be too complicated to pull off, and so they are now demolishing the building, but will keep the existing slab and be rebuilding on the same footprint. So work is continuing at pace. I think I mentioned last time that at least their most aggressive schedule has them snipping the ribbon, moving in before the end of the year, so that would be great if it can happen. Last thing I wanted to mention, I think the last time, is many of you are already aware, our Recreation Department has now moved down to their new building, which is the renovated former Ambulance Corps garage, which is right adjacent to the football field on Marble Avenue. So we now have much better accommodations from them, as well as a room that can be used not only for their programs, but will soon be available for rent for outside groups or for individuals who are interested in doing something. That's on our agenda tonight to talk about the terms under which rentals would happen, but they're newly accommodated. Go on down there and take a look. And for any of you who have business with the rec department, signing up for programs, pool passes, whatever it may be, that no longer happens here on the 3rd floor at Village Hall and instead happens at the new rec building on Marble Avenue adjacent to the football field. The next item on our list is we have representatives here from Toll Brothers. We had a visit from Toll Brothers about 2 months ago and gave us a preview of their proposal to develop a residential development on what has colloquially been called the Baker properties, which is those 2 low office buildings on the uphill side of Washington Avenue, about halfway down on the right. It's a property that actually backs up to Foxwood at the top of the hill. The 2 buildings are currently owned by a company called Benenson Equities. They are both empty. The property has been on the market for an extended period of time, and it's our understanding now that Toll Brothers has entered into a contingent contract to buy that property and to redevelop it. We have the proposal that they have given us, which is a petition to the village board to change the zoning on that property to permit this use. The property is currently zoned for the campus office, and so any residential use there would require a rezoning. They have, through the attorneys Aaron and Steinmetz, presented an official application to start that process, and they have come here tonight to describe a little more about what they have in mind. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees. David Steinmetz from the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz here. Very pleased to be representing Toll Brothers. With me tonight from Toll Brothers, Dan Zielinski and James Fitzpatrick, both of whom you have seen before and will be working regularly and consistently throughout the process on this application. We're here tonight, as the mayor said, with a petition for sketch plan and rezoning review by the Board of Trustees. With me in connection with that as well, Scott Blakely from Insight Engineering, our project architect, Tim Miller from Tim Miller Associates, the environmental consulting firm that will be working throughout the secret review process, and as of course all of you know, my colleague David Cooper. We came before the board a couple of months ago, pre-submission informally. We talked about this particular site. You call it Baker Properties. We refer to it as the Benenson property. We all know it's an 18-acre parcel on Washington Avenue, currently vacant, currently, I guess, underutilized. And Toll Brothers has a vision for what we believe is a wonderful 70-unit, fee-simple townhouse luxury condominium or luxury townhouse project, I should say. It will require, in order to implement that vision, a rezoning by your board, which we've filed a petition for review both by this board on the zoning issues, the planning commission on site plan, and all of the process needs to be analyzed under the umbrage or umbrella of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA. And so tonight, we're really here to start the process. We're going to talk a little bit about the project and walk you through the site plan, walk you through what we believe the environmental review will consist of. But obviously, the village will guide us through that once the lead agency is determined. Procedurally, we're hoping to accomplish 2 things tonight. One is to start the secret review process by designating a lead agency or intend to designate a lead agency. And secondly, to review the project, to forward the project on and refer it to the Planning Commission so that the Planning Commission can become part of the review. The property, as the mayor said, is currently located in the CO, or the Campus Office District. It's an 18-acre parcel with 2 buildings on it. Existing development is approximately the disturbance area, 6 to 7 acres, with just under 4 acres of impervious surface area. Adjacent to Foxwoods, which is approximately 258 townhouse units, a density of about 5.1 acres per acre. We have single-family homes to our west on the other side of Washington. And as I said, our proposal is a 70 townhouse plan unit development, or PUD. Our developed area would be approximately 10.5 of the 18 acres, and our impervious surface area, roofs, roads, sidewalks, or anything of that nature would be 4.65 acres. Single point of access from Washington Avenue, and I'm going to let Scott walk through the details of the site plan in just a moment. In terms of the procedural issues, I mentioned that we need a rezoning. Currently, the site is in the CO zoning district. In order to develop it the way we would like to develop it, we would like to have this site located in the PUD, or PUD zoning district. Right now, the way the code is written here in the village, PUDs require a minimum of 25 acres. We've got 18, so we are proposing a text amendment that would allow PUDs to be placed on a CO parcel that's at least 16 or 15 or more acres. In addition, there are certain other technical requirements in your PUD zoning right now. We're suggesting that the board be permitted, the planning commission be permitted certain latitude to take a look at road length, internal road length, and have some flexibility on that, as well as on the height of structures. So hopefully you all received a number of things from our office. You should have received the cover letter that we sent you, dated January 24th. Significantly, we provided you with a formal petition requesting the zone change, and we also gave you, as is customary when you're filing a zoning petition, some draft text amendments that we'd like you to entertain. We've submitted that to your village manager as well as your special counsel, and I know that they're all just beginning their analysis of that. But we have placed in front of you some specific recommendations of what we're asking for that would facilitate the project. In addition to the text amendment, we would also need a formal map change from the Board of Trustees. In order for us to move forward, we would want you, A, to change the text of the zoning, and then secondly, to ultimately place the PUD designation on this property. All of that has to be done as a package part of the secret review process. Now, in order to get this process underway, we need a lead agency or a primary reviewing agency under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA. We also need you to refer the project to your Planning Commission, and we need you to refer it to Westchester County Department of Planning as well. And we're hoping that all of that can get underway, and Joel and Patty can walk you through the propriety of those actions. Ultimately, this project will require site plan review by the Planning Commission, as well as subdivision plat review and approval by the Planning Commission as well. Because of the nature of the development as fee simple townhouse units, there will actually be subdivided lots, and that will be something that we will accomplish with the Planning Commission as well. So with that as some very quick preliminary background, I'm going to turn it over to Scott to walk us through the actual proposed site plan, the layout, the number of units, the road network, why we've located it the way we have, and last but not least, we are underway in terms of our preliminary drainage study. You've explained to us, as the community has as well, that there are some drainage issues out there. We're very mindful of that. And the good news is that Toll Brothers has retained the services of Insight Engineering, not only to resolve the issues on the Baker or Benenson property, but also to improve the conditions in the surrounding area. Now, Scott's going to speak about that.
All right, I'm going to suggest that we head out there for this purpose so that the audience, the TV audience, and the board can all see it at the same time.
Great.
You won't be headed in two directions at once. It's okay.
Good evening. Scott Blakely with Insight Engineering, and we've been retained by Toll Brothers to work on the project and prepare the site plans and necessary supporting reports for the project. Toll Brothers presented a sketch plan to you a couple of months ago, and I just want to first start off with a couple of modifications that we've made since that sketch plan was presented to your board. There are currently 2 curb cuts along Washington Avenue. There's one to the south, and then there's an angular curb cut in this location that comes up into a parking area. We took a look at the location of the proposed curb cut, and we've shifted that curb cut to the north to take it to the high point in the road, which is in the location of that angular curb cut. What that does is that helps improve sight distance along Washington Avenue from people leaving the site and from people traveling north and south on Washington Avenue. We've also proposed a boulevard entrance, which is 2 lanes, one entering, one exiting, with a center landscape island. By shifting the access road approximately 120 feet, that has reduced the overall length of that long leg of the cul-de-sac to the north, this leg. As David mentioned, there's 70 units on the project. We have provided 2 cars parking in each of the units. There are double driveways for additional parking for visitors, and we've also provided 12 visitor spaces scattered throughout the development.
So the units have 2 garages,
Yeah, there's-
plus 2 spaces in the driveway?
Plus there's room in the driveway for 2 additional cars, so there's plenty of on-site parking for visitors. One of the issues that we dealt with initially, as we do with all of our projects, is we dive into the stormwater first. This project has 2 defined drainage points at 2 of the low points in Washington Avenue. One in this location and one here. And we looked at the existing drainage divides and wanted to mimic the proposed drainage divide, so we weren't taking additional runoff in either of those watersheds. So this plan indicates 1 additional stormwater basin that's proposed since the last plan that was presented to your board.
Where's that, Scott?
That's in this location, just to the south of the entrance drive. This is the location of the other proposed basin that was previously presented. One issue with the site is there's not really any defined drainage. There's a lot of surface flow that comes off the site onto Washington Avenue during heavy rain events, and it doesn't have the ability to get into the inlets, so it builds up across the road and then goes into the residence driveways and then back down to the sawmill. So what we're proposing is the collection of the uphill drainage off the site in the areas that we're not disturbing, to pick that up in cut-off swales, take that into a collection system, and get it in a pipe system underground that will eventually flow through these 2 locations. So that takes care of that upstream water that
By
comes.
uphill, you're referring to the eastern side of the eastern property?
That's correct. This slopes fairly steeply from the rear property line down to about this area. And then as far as the development, we have a collection system designed to pick up runoff from the new impervious surfaces and the change in impervious from wooded areas to grass and landscaped areas. That's a separate collection system that will collect the rainwater, get it into a pipe system, and take that into our stormwater basins for quality and quantity treatment. So there will be no net increase in peak flow runoff. And again, that water will flow underground and into the 2 pipes that go through the residential lots back down to the sawmill.
And you have easements there, or you will get easements?
The county has
County has
existing
easements
pipes.
The county already
Yeah,
has
we've
existing
had-
that are big enough already to accommodate that runoff?
We're looking at the capacity of those pipes. If they need to be replaced and upsized, then Toll will work with the county or the landowners to make that happen. We've had discussions with the village DPW with regard to sewer and water connections. There's municipal water, municipal sewer. We've had preliminary discussions. Our grading utility plan that we submitted does show the sewer and water mains proposed for the property. We've also submitted a grading plan, which shows the limited disturbance. As David mentioned, we're in that 10.5, 11-acre disturbance area. A majority of the site's been developed with the office buildings and large parking areas. But we do have an increase in impervious that, as I mentioned before, we will be dealing with our stormwater basins.
Sewer and water for a moment?
We've done some preliminary analysis on water capacity and what we'll need for the project. The units are proposed as 3-bedroom units. Based on design manuals, we're looking at about 22,000 gallons a day. The actual usage will be lower, just based on history and looking at sites similar to this. The sewer, there's 2 sewer lines that we'll be connecting into. The majority of the property will tie into a sewer in this location. It has an easement that runs through the back of the residential properties back to the county trunk line. And then there's also a sewer manhole located at the north end of the property, which we'll be taking these 12 units into. There's a central wetland corridor, and we have stayed out of the wetland area. We will have some wetland buffer disturbance. It's not a pristine wetland. We've had a wetland consultant flag the wetland, and he'll be preparing a report and pulling together a wetland mitigation plan to try to really enhance that area.
Is that the Tim Miller Associates?
It's Mike Nowicki. So he's preparing that report right now, and that'll be submitted along with the other environmental documents.
Part of our overall environmental assessment performance package.
I think that's it.
The
Any
2
questions?
drainage basins, are those grassy hollows or?
They're actually
Those would be
going to be
underground structure?
pocket ponds. We will have a water feature in each of those ponds. That means there's going to be
An aerator.
they're going to be ponds, actual ponds that hold water. That helps us with our stormwater quality treatment. They'll be landscaped. They are going to be visible. So I don't know if you've seen any of Toll's projects. They've probably shown you photographs, but they do a very nice job. This pond is going to be right at the entrance, right at grade, so that will be visible from Washington Avenue. So we plan on preparing a detailed landscape plan for each of those ponds.
During the process, we'll be presenting a full landscape plan, and you'll see all the details in terms of the species of vegetation, et cetera. On road specifications and for these private roads?
Road width is going to be 24 feet. We will have Belgian block curbs on the roads. We've provided cul-de-sac and turnaround at each end. We've got hydrant locations proposed. Again, we'll meet with the fire department and just verify those locations, that they're adequate for what they're looking for.
And you envision this to be a private road?
At this time,
Or
yes.
Okay.
There'll be a homeowners association to maintain that road.
Right. And at least in draft, your radiuses are sufficient for garbage trucks and fire trucks and all that?
Correct.
Yeah, you can see that the radiuses are relatively
Right.
sweeping. The grades on the roads are gentle. They're in the 5 to 6% maximum.
Is this, the map you have there is the same map that I have here, or did you say there's corrections made to it?
Nope, that's the same map.
That's it. So there's still only one entrance?
That's correct.
Okay.
Could you touch on that? I noticed that you show a retaining wall on the Washington Avenue side of the property. That's required, I assume, for the foundations.
Correct.
And have you gotten to the point of imagining how that relates to the streetscape?
What we've done is we've set the units back approximately 50 feet from the front property line. There's quite a grade change from the streetscape across the site. In this area, it climbs steeply, and then you have that old asphalt parking area, and then it starts to climb this way. We've pulled together a preliminary grading plan. We'll be adjusting those grades, but we do have a tiered wall system at the south end and a tiered wall system at the north end. Also, there's a wall system in here, just above that stormwater basin.
Is there a plan for any additional buffer in that area as plantings or
Which area?
anything?
Along the frontage?
Yeah, the frontage. Yes.
Yeah, what we've done is, instead of having very tall retaining walls, we've stepped those so we can landscape in front of
So there'll be
them,
some greenery.
in between them,
Break it up.
and then up on top, so we can break up that visual aspect.
Tim, you could talk a little bit about what we're going to be presenting to you as part of the environmental review so that you have a sense of what's coming.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
evening. Tim Miller with Tim Miller Associates. We're the environmental planners for the applicant. This is a redevelopment project, and because the site is zoned for office, it does allow for actually what we consider to be more intensive use of the site in terms of just land use activities in comparison to a residential development. For example, this project will generate about 45 trips during peak hour periods, where the existing office at 50,000 square feet generates about 140 trips during a peak hour period. But nonetheless, residential projects do have different characteristics than commercial projects, and it's our thought that as a redevelopment project, we want to be able to demonstrate to the village and to the various agencies that this project will have similar or fewer impacts than the existing office project. In that regard, it's our intent to submit a Part 3 environmental assessment form package that takes a look at some of the issues that we think would be of importance to the community based on what we know about the village and what we know about the site. So we anticipate that we will take a look at traffic and trip generation, visual impacts of the project, community character. We want to be able to demonstrate that the design will be compatible with the neighborhood. School children generation, obviously an office park doesn't generate school children directly. This will, so we want to take a look at school children and fiscal impacts associated with the project. As Scott mentioned, there's a small wetland on the site. We will be crossing it. It's a very minor crossing. It's about 5/100ths of an acre, but we want to be able to address that in the EAF. Soils on the site are deep. We'll be providing information on grading and techniques for erosion control during construction. There'll be a stormwater management drainage plan in the EAF and a utilities report. It's our hope and our expectation that through this EAF process we'll be able to demonstrate to the village as lead agency that the project will not have significant environmental impacts, and you'll be able to conclude this process with a similar conclusion and adopt a negative declaration. So we do expect that we'll be submitting that material to the village sometime in the next 30 to 60 days, and then certainly will be available as the village reviews it, and if there are any questions, comments, or further need for examination, and we'd be happy to do that. And if there's any input at this point, or even in the next couple of weeks, we'd love to hear from you. So, thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of summary points. One of the things that we talked about with you and the community last time, it is a market rate project. It's not an age-restricted project, but as you heard from James and from Dan at the last meeting, the target for certainly a substantial portion of this development would be empty nesters. The nature of the units, the fact that there will be a considerable number of first-floor master bedrooms located on the first floor. Toll Brothers sees a real genuine desire for either empty nesters or even potentially young couples starting out. So we will do a school children analysis. We're absolutely required to do so, and you need that information, but we think that this project is not going to be the nature of such that would generate large numbers of school children. In terms of the rezoning, this is a project that requires discretionary activity or action by your board. So as we said to you in the pre-submission phase, I reiterate it again, it is important to Toll Brothers that we that get the sense that your board is interested in pursuing this project. Nobody's asking your board to vote on this, but this is a discretionary activity. We cannot proceed with this project without rezoning from your board. So should your board have any major issues of concern, we would hope that you would voice them. The sense that we've gotten is that this project is, at least at an initial basis, so far well received, and we want to keep it that way. But if there are major issues of concern, we'd like to try to address them early on. One of the things that's going to be very important to the applicant is working constructively with your professional consultants. Joel's made himself very accessible in terms of being able to supply him with the petition and discuss some zoning issues. Patty's coordinated this like she does everything, which is quickly and wonderfully, but certainly it's my understanding that you're going to need an environmental and/or engineering consultant to work with our team. That's something that we would ask you to deal with early on. We're ready to, we've already supplied you with a significant amount of information. We're going to be supplying you, as Tim just said, in the next 30 to 60 days with a substantial amount of information. We'd like to know that there's a consultant, assuming the village is retaining a consultant on board, so that that consultant is running and we can hand the baton at the same speed that we're traveling at. So I would ask you, with all due respect and courtesy, to get that underway at the earliest possible time. With that all having been said, as I said at the outset, procedurally, two simple things. We need to know who intends to serve as lead agency, and we would ask for a designation of intent to serve as lead agency. And even though we have not given all of the material that we're going to need to supply as part of the rezoning, the site plan, the subdivision, and the secret review, we would like you to refer this to the Planning Commission, because just like this is a discretionary activity for rezoning by the Board of Trustees, your board is entitled to input from the Planning Commission, and we have not appeared in front of your Planning Commission yet on this. I think the chair was at the last meeting, I believe, and we definitely, it's important to Toll Brothers that we see that the Planning Commission feels that they're part of this process, because they have to be part of this process. I don't want them to feel like they're outside, and your own code does require a referral. So those are the procedural actions that we'd love to get underway tonight. And again, we've got our whole team here. We're happy to answer questions or present you with anything else that you have not seen that you'd like to talk about.
For the benefit of anyone who may be watching who didn't see the previous presentation, I see you've got some boards here that
Yes.
suggestion of what it all might look like, or at least what Toll has done elsewhere. So
Would you like to see that?
I think that'd be helpful.
I'm going to turn that part over to James, because he knows this better than anybody. I'll let you, I know you said you want to start with this.
Oh, well, did you want to?
After they're done. Well, not after they're done. I
Okay.
want to go back through the secret process,
Okay.
but let's.
Good evening, James Fitzpatrick, Toll Brothers. So I'll give you just a quick overview of the product that we anticipate, the homes we anticipate building on the site. It's easiest to look at, I guess, in doing the site plan at the same time. The uphill units, which would be on the eastern side of the property, grading dictates that units be what we call tuck-unders, or traditional, what some people might consider traditional townhomes, where the garage is on the first level and your main two living area levels are stacked above. The other situation is the downhill units, or the western side of the property, and those are at-grade towns where the garage is on your main living level, and then you have a second story. We've designed the site so all the units that face Washington Avenue, which are at-grade units, can accommodate first-floor master bedrooms, which we feel is very important. The units that are on the uphill side of the property obviously cannot, so they'll be traditional, second-floor master bedrooms, or in this case, third-floor master bedrooms. The downhill side units, they'll range from about 2,000 square feet to about 2,700 square feet. The uphill side units are a little larger, again, just because of the nature of the construction and the garage being on the lower level. They'll be around 2,800 square feet.
If I understood correctly, two things that are required in addition to lowering the acreage from 25 to 15 for the PUDs is street length and height requirement.
Correct.
Is the height requirement mainly an issue with the uphill side units, or what is the height requirement, and what would you be looking for in terms of?
Sure. I believe the code right now is 30 feet. We'd be looking for 35 feet, and that again is strictly dictated by the grade. On the uphill side, you're going to be 3 stories on the street side of the unit. On the downhill side, you'll be 3 stories on the Washington Avenue sides of the unit. So in both, just because you're building on a hill, you're always chasing grade, one way or the other. So you're
The western face is always going to be the
correct. So
the taller face.
right.
So both sides, with both units would be 35 feet.
Both sides of the street, both sides of our proposed street.
You'll be less than 35 feet.
Okay.
but in excess
But greater than
potentially
30.
30. Exactly.
Right.
I
There
was
you
waiting
go.
to see if he was going to add that part, but yeah, that.
And I realize you're not into detailed design, but is this the general character of what you
Yeah,
propose?
the units up top are from a job that we built in Armonk, New York, called Whippoorwill Hills. And that was built in the late 90s, early 2000s. So, yeah, I believe they've held up well, but yeah, we've kind of developed our exterior elevations a little bit since then. The units down below are from a job that we're selling up in Fishkill, New York right now. And while we may revise some of the exterior materials, I think that would be a pretty good indication of a mixture of siding and stone and heavy trim elements on the exterior of the buildings, which we feel is in line with the architecture in the village.
Have you given some thought to incorporating some of the elements that you see in the village here, like front porches and sort of, the way, I don't know, a friend of mine participated in the design of Celebration of Florida, which was this town where he visited Pleasantville once and said, this is what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
In Celebration. We didn't quite do it right. So I'm wondering if it's possible to incorporate it.
Yeah, we certainly have done that in the past, and I think we would also take a look at that here as well. We are dealing with some just site constraints and limitations just because of the nature of the site. So, big front porches, and that may be something that would be, specifically that would be a little difficult. Right, but yeah, we understand the intent, and we would certainly be open to looking at that for sure.
I would be interested in seeing something.
Okay. And is it yet
Even though we might not have really anything to say about that. Still, I would like to.
You're still saying it.
I'm still going to say it. He told me not to say it.
Is it yet understood whether you build this all at once or in phases?
No, we don't. As a company, we don't build on spec, but the nature of the site it would lend itself from the infrastructure point of view standpoint. We would most likely build this in one phase. From the home construction end of things, we would build as we have agreements of sale on the homes.
So the road would be graded and, rough course put in, the utilities, the drainage would all go in. That would probably be the first activity, some models, and then
Correct.
As units were selling, they would probably migrate from one side of the site to the other. I don't think we'd be building in different sections.
Right. Yeah, we would, on a job of this nature, we would be very mindful of how and kind of the order of procedure and working around the community.
Typically, in front of your planning commission as part of the environmental review and the subdivision review, we would lay out some form of a construction phasing plan and explain that, and that's something that we'll develop throughout the process.
Can I just ask for 2 more points to be put on the record with respect to the development design intent? There isn't any on-site recreation provided, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so, and then with respect to developing fee simple luxury townhouse developments, you are aware that we have a local law that requires a 10% set aside for
Thank you
fair and
for bringing that.
affordable
Yes, we
housing?
are. Yes.
Okay, and you'll comply with that as well?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for, we had mentioned that during the pre-submission, and thank you for reminding us, because we absolutely are aware of
For the
that.
benefit of those who weren't listening last time, can you just go over again what you expect the costs to be for the units?
Sure. Again, we are 100% market driven. We can sell for what the market tells we can sell for. If we were to open for sale today, we'd be have units priced from anywhere from the high 500s to the high 600s, depending on whether it was a tuck under unit, a unit that was at grade, the size of the unit, location of the unit within the community.
And can you estimate the common fees, the association fees?
On a smaller job like this, again, there's no rec facility, which is usually one of the big engines of the budgets. I would reference probably you'd be right in the $250 range, $225 range, and that would take care of all your exterior, snow plowing, lawn landscaping, and there's reserve funds, things of that nature.
Thank you.
Anyway, all right, I just want to return to our
He's so bad. Not on that side. It's so funny. Yes.
Joel, you had a few thoughts?
Yeah, I'd just like to get back into the process again. As Mr.
I haven't got a name card, Joel Sachs from Keenan Bean, our village attorney.
Okay. As Mr. Simon said, this is an action subject to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and the first step is for a determination to be made as to who will be lead agency and who will conduct the environmental review of the project. Along with the zoning petition, there has been submitted a long-form environmental assessment form by Mr. Miller on behalf of the Miller Associates, which is Exhibit E. The first step, and again, I'm assuming that the Board of Trustees wishes or intends to be the lead agency for the environmental review. So the first step would be for the board to send out a notice of intent to be lead agency to the other involved agencies. Now, the other involved agencies, most of them are listed on the environmental assessment form. They include the Village Planning Commission. They include the Westchester County Health Department, Westchester County Planning, New York State DEC. The one local agency that I don't see mentioned on here is the Village Architectural Review Board. They are also an involved agency. So someone needs to prepare a list of the names and addresses of all the involved agencies. All those involved agencies will be mailed a copy of the environmental assessment form along with the site plan and any other type of narrative which we think is appropriate. And we would ask that those agencies indicate within 30 days whether they have any objection to the Board of Trustees serving as lead agency. Hopefully, and they will not, and I don't expect that they will. But as a matter of practice, I'm not sure, will the notices be mailed to the involved agencies by the village, Patty, or
Yes.
or the applicant does that?
No, we will.
Okay, the village.
We'll supply Patty with whatever additional copies of anything
Thank
she needs,
And-
as well as the addresses that Joel's mentioned.
Right. So after a period of 30 days, the next time this board meets after that 30-day waiting period, you will be able, hopefully, to affirm that you are, in fact, the lead agency under the environmental review process, and then the next step will be for the board to determine whether it will require a full environmental impact statement or whether it believes that it has sufficient information before us in regard to whatever the key issues are, such as drainage and traffic, et cetera, that you can analyze the impacts without requiring the developer to undergo an full environmental impact statement. And again, as Mr. Simons mentioned, you're going to be utilizing a planning and an engineering consultant, and I understand from talking to Patty, you're going to probably be using Frederick Clark.
Well, to be determined, a further discussion ongoing.
That's to be
Well, we
determined.
certainly are mindful of the need to make that decision promptly.
Right.
Yeah, right. And the other step, which I think would be appropriate now, is there's no reason for the board not to, on a preliminary basis, to refer the application for the zoning amendments. And again, we're talking about a zoning text amendment, and we're talking about a zoning map amendment to the Planning Commission for their report and recommendation. They can't make any nobody can make any final decision until we go through the seeker process.
You said
It's-
before that 30 days.
Yeah, well, even
Right.
even after the 30 days, they can't make a
But I
decision.
mean, we should submit that.
Well, and we
sooner.
have a resolution tonight to declare our intent to be lead agency.
Yes, correct, and to
one
send the
refer zoning
environmental
to planning.
assessment form and other materials to all the other involved agencies.
But to Trustee Skarstad's question, there's no reason we can't appear in front of the Planning Commission
Right.
during the 30-day period if we were able to get on their agenda. In fact, one of the reasons we would do it is to explain to them what the project is so that they have a better idea of why they might not have an objection to your board serving as lead agency.
So this resolution should simply state that the board is going to declare
It's
itself.
Intent to declare itself as lead agency, right?
So no decision on the, just so I'm clear, no decision on the the zoning text or map amendments are made before we get input from planning, we better understand the scope and need for or not for SECRA.
Yeah, no decision on
Okay,
any
fine.
of those matters is going to be made
Yeah, that
probably
was
for
good.
months. It's going to have to be referred also to county planning
Yeah.
for their recommendations
Okay.
on the zoning amendments, yes.
All right, so I can, in response to the question you asked a little bit earlier, I'm happy to state for the record that what you've said to us tonight is very much in line with what you said to us a couple of months ago. And I feel the same way I felt 2 months ago, and that was it's a significant project and one which I'm sure will generate some disagreements here and there, but I am impressed by what you propose. I am unimpressed by what goes on that property now. I consider residential use to be an appropriate use there, and we're delighted to receive this application.
Right.
Anyone else?
Perfectly stated.
Whatever.
Is the board going to take action on the resolutions, or only after this session of, are you doing that?
We will take action on the resolutions tonight.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, so now for the benefit of those who are watching and those in the audience, there will be, as you have heard, a formal process of review. First, the review for the zoning amendment, and then, assuming the zoning amendment is approved, the site plan approval process that would take place at the Planning Commission. Both of those two enterprises, the zoning change as well as the site plan review, will involve public hearing and public opportunity to speak. And we also encourage anybody who is interested in this matter and has opinions to feel free to express their opinions along the way, especially to any of us and or to Patty Dwyer as this proceeds. But the next step will be further discussion in a public meeting about the process of reviewing the zoning change. So,
It is our intention to try to get on the Planning Commission agenda at the earliest possible date, possibly during the month of February. That's our goal.
okay, that's fine. So, and we will act tonight on declaring the intent, our intent to serve as lead agency and to make the referral to the Planning Commission. So,
Thank you all. We will see you soon.
Thank you.
And if and when you make a determination on selecting a consultant, if Patty would let us know so we can supply them with information.
certainly will do so soon.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to spending plenty of time with you.
Pleasure.
All right, brief break to change tapes, and then we'll be back. We're back. Sorry for that brief delay to change the tape and also to resolve some paperwork matters. Are there any comments from the public at this time on any subject? All right, we'll head to our resolutions. Number 19, Colleen.
Did you want to say something?
Okay.
All right. Resolved that pre-check register dated January 28, 2013, covering check number 74439 through 74521, have been reviewed and they are hereby approved as listed below. From the General Fund, Water Fund, Capital Fund, Refuse Fund, and Pool Fund totaling $192,221.34.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Mindy.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, January 14, 2013, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or corrections on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Number 21, John.
All right. We called it audible on this one, so bear with me. Whereas the village is the owner of the rec center, building located at 359 Bedford Road in Pleasantville, and whereas the village has determined that the rec center is no longer needed for municipal purposes, and whereas the Board of Trustees has determined that it is in the best interest of the village to sell the building to a buyer who will respect the integrity of the existing 2.5-story building on the site, and whereas McCormick General Contracting, Inc., with offices located at 24 Mountain Road in Pleasantville, has offered to buy the rec center building for a sum of $100,000, subject to certain conditions, including maintenance and of the existing structure. And whereas the Board of Trustees has determined that it is the best interest of the village to accept the offer from McCormick General Contracting, whereas the board has reviewed a short-form environmental assessment form in conjunction with the proposed sale dated January 28, 2013, whereas the board has reviewed a proposed contract to sale for the subject rec center. A copy of that is included if you'd like to see it. Resolved, therefore, that the village has determined that the rec center property is no longer needed for general village purposes, that the proposed sale of the rec center to McCormick Contracting constitutes an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and such sale will not have sufficient adverse effect upon the environment, and accordingly the village issues a negative declaration in conjunction with the proposed sale. And whereas the Board of Trustees hereby approves the entering into a contract to sale with the village and McCormick General for the rec center for the sum of $100,000. And finally, that the resolve that the board, or that the mayor, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, is authorized to execute such contract to sale and take such other actions as may be necessary in order to effectuate the sale of the rec center building to McCormick General Contracting Corp. Inc.
Is there a second? As you know, this has been a long story. It's a building that dates back to 1897, and we have made a number of efforts to sell it after the village moved out of it, both for reasons of maintenance and also because the space was really not working very well for the rec department as it stood. It has certainly been one of our primary goals in the course of all of this to preserve that historic building, both because it's a big piece of Pleasantville history and because it's a big piece of what we all know to be a very well-preserved turn-of-the-century street on Bedford Road. So the result of that, with multiple rounds of efforts to sell it and extended conversations with lots of potential buyers, is that preserving and restoring that building is a substantial task and one that ultimately undermines the property value because so much money has to be spent to invest in the building's restoration. So Mike McCormick came forward with the best of the offers that we received, and we had at least one other offer in writing and a number of other people conversing verbally about what they might be able to pay. Mike is well known to many Pleasantvilleans and has an extremely good track record both as a person and as a contractor. His family well known as well. They are tremendously excited about the project. We're selling it with a deed easement that requires that the building be preserved and can never be torn down, not by this owner or by any future owner, without the permission of this or a future village board. And we also have some due diligence built in there that requires his prompt action, which he is happy to deliver. So we're excited about this, excited to have McCormick Contracting as the new owner of that building, and they intend to restore and rebuild that building for a zoning compliant use, which is either one or two family. I think they hadn't quite decided what the result would be, but it's great news for the village of Pleasantville, and for the first time in a long time, I think we can have confidence that that 1897 landmark will remain where it is for a good long while. So
Probably with a porch, Brian.
thank you.
Maybe two.
Good.
And it goes back on the tax rolls.
Yes, that's right.
Could I also indicate that the contract of sale, which has already been signed by the purchaser, they had already delivered a 10% down payment, which is already in the Keenan Bean escrow account. And the contract is really an unconditional contract in the sense that McCormick should be required to close sometime within the next 30 days to 45 days as soon as they get a title report back. And once we do the closing, they then have a period of a maximum of 24 months to complete the reconstruction and the rehabilitation of the building.
Thank you for that clarification, and the happy news is that as anxious as we were to see all that happen, they're equally or even a little more anxious than we are. So I am very, very optimistic about the future of that building in these good hands. So any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm recusing myself.
Okay. Number 22.
Whereas the Village of Pleasantville wishes to grant Cablevision of Ossining LP
franchise as successor to American Cable Systems of New York, DBA Continental Cablevision, a renewal of its non-exclusive franchise to construct, install, maintain, extend, and operate a cable system in the franchise area designated in this franchise. And there are a number of whereas clauses, finishing with whereas the Village of Pleasantville and franchisee have reached agreement on the terms and conditions set forth herein, and the parties have agreed to be bound by those terms and conditions. Now therefore be it resolved that this cable franchise renewal agreement is hereby awarded and herewith entered into by and between the Village of Pleasantville, a validly organized and existing political subdivision of the state of New York, and Cablevision of Ossining LP, an entity authorized to do business in the state of New York.
Is there a second?
Second.
Long discussion, as those of you who watch us regularly are well aware, and I think we have arrived at the point of approving this, recognizing that there are lots of aspects of the way cable TV operates in the village that may annoy one or another or all of us, but we have no legal control over lots of aspects of that. I do want to thank Cablevision for, I think, a good faith effort to work with us, and that which we have before us, I think, is the best deal available to us under the circumstances. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Number 23.
Whereas sealed bids were advertised in the official village newspaper and received on January 23rd, 2013 for generators at the Ridgeview Water Tank and Skytop Booster Station, and whereas bids were received as per the following and reviewed by the Superintendent of Public Works as follows. We had 2 bids, one from Cummins Power Systems, one from Kinsley Power Systems. The total from Cummins was $52,653. From Kinsley, it was $48,172. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Public Works, hereby awards the bid for generators at the Ridgeview Water Tank and Skytop Booster Station to Kinsley Power Systems in the amount not to exceed $30,847.
Is there a second?
Although that does.
30 million.
We're missing a decimal
We're missing a
point there.
decimal
Yeah.
point.
3 million.
Yeah.
30,847.
We knew it was going to be
Did we get a
expensive, not
second?
that expensive.
Second.
I second, yes.
Yeah, second on the 30,000.
There are 2 aspects of our review of our experience during Hurricane Sandy that led to what you hear right now, and the first is that we need to maintain power to our the water tank communication system that allows the condition of our water tank to be communicated back to the Millwood treatment plant, which has the sort of dashboard for the entire shared system between Pleasantville and Newcastle. During Hurricane Sandy, we lost that communication because power was out, and this will allow us to maintain it. Secondly, we are relatively fortunate in that most of our water system is a system fed by the natural pressure in the system, either gravity or the pressure provided by the water tanks, but the route up Skytop requires a booster pump. We lost power to that booster pump during Hurricane Sandy, and those people who live in the neighborhood there at Highview and Brentwood are well aware that on a Saturday we had to drag in what sounded like a old helicopter landing and keeping its engines on in order to keep water pressure up on Skytop. So what this will allow us to do is, even in an extended power outage such as we had in Sandy, maintain water pressure up to Skytop and maintain the electronic controls that control the whole system. So also happy to report that Jeff Econom, our Superintendent of Public Works, had originally estimated that this project might cost $48,000, and we've come in quite a bit lower than that. So.
Just to amend what I said, or not to amend it, to change it, I read the totals, but so that it jives with what we said, the subtotals, which is what the limit there is, for Cummins was $31,111, Kinsey was $30,847. That's where that number comes from. I read the numbers that included some other pieces.
What are those other pieces, Patty? And why if we're not voting on them, why are they part of the resolution?
The other pieces are not
They're not part of the resolution, they're part of the memo where
they're required
the
by.
superintendent was explaining the difference in the aggregate of the bids, that one manufacturer had included what was optional with respect to Cummins, and would have escalated the cost with respect to the Cummins Power Systems proposal.
The Kinsley does not require those extras.
They're
The
already
Cummins
in,
bid
they're
does.
already in, right, they're already in the bid
The
price.
ultimate budget that I just referred to, $10,000 below his estimate of $48,000, is this cost plus the cost of the concrete pads that we already spoke about at a previous meeting. So what we're spending here
I
is
was
$30,000.
more referring to the
Those two.
$21,542 for Cummings, $17,325 for the Skytop booster 24-hour station. That brings those totals up to $52,000 and $48,000. What are those numbers?
Oh, okay,
And
they
have we
were-
determined we don't need them, or
Yes,
is that something
that is
we're going to
correct.
see later?
No, they were alternate bids with respect to having the capacity to run either at 24-hour or 12-hour intervals. There were alternates on the bid.
And this will run as configured at these prices for 12 hours?
I think the issue is we simply have to go and refuel them periodically. That was
Yeah, I
what
don't-
Jeff had indicated.
That is
Okay,
correct.
all
I
right.
don't know the, I don't know the.
Just trying to understand what we
Depends on the capacity
have
of
here.
Depends on the capacity of the supplemental fuel,
Right.
system that they were running off of.
Well, anyway, Jeff is clear
Okay.
in his advice that we accept
Yeah.
Kinsley for
Yeah.
$30,847. So all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Motion approved. Number 24, Mindy.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville, pursuant to Part 617.20 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, hereby declare its intent to be lead agency with respect to the zoning amendment petition by Toll Brothers, and further resolves to refer the environmental assessment form to involved agencies.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Off to the races. Number 25, Jonathan.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the referral of the zoning text amendment for Toll Brothers to the Planning Commission for review and comment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Does-
Thank you. We
We
look
don't
forward
need
to
to do a map,
continued
too?
discussion.
We should say
Well,
ARB as
The
well.
amendment is both, or unless you need to make it clearer, both a text
Okay.
change and a map change.
We'll
Okay.
reflect that in the
Both.
minutes. Thank
All
you.
right,
fine.
zoning
Okay.
text and map
And shouldn't
amendment.
it say the, oh, well,
Just
not just planning for now, but ARB, it
All the
doesn't have to
involved
be.
agencies will have.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
all the other agencies are going to be getting the environmental
Okay.
assessment form,
But
but
they're
the
not reviewing
actual
it.
proposed zoning amendments are
Okay.
being referred now for review.
So
Okay.
zoning text and map amendments is
Right.
understood. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
that's okay to the, approved by the
Yep.
mover and the seconder.
Yes.
All right, number 26.
Result that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from the village treasurer to attend Munis Conference, Boston, Mass., April 28th through May 1st, 2013, at a cost of $1,500.
Is there a second?
Second.
Munis is our municipal accounting and financial management application. Mary Schwartz, our treasurer, has made it do things we didn't know it could do, and in part it's because she goes to events like this. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Motion approved. Number 27.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approve the following budget amendments: to transfer funds for salary projections, all coming out of contingency code, going into various budget codes that are listed in, that'll be listed in the record, totaling $40,835.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Is there any new business? Any further comment? And one more thing I wanted to mention, and that is I have received a set of documents from DASNY, the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, and they are forwarding to the Village of Pleasantville the Dormitory Authority's State Environmental Quality Review Act findings statement for the Pace University Master Plan update. The Dormitory Authority is involved in the financing and may issue variable taxable or tax-exempt bonds that may or may not exceed $155 million. So that is sent to us because we are adjacent to Pace. Pace is actually in the town of Mount Pleasant, not in the village. But it is an opportunity to remind you that Pace has a quite substantial master plan to very dramatically change and I think improve the Pleasantville campus. And if anyone is interested in finding out more about what they have to do, the university has put up a new website, which is PACEPLVmasterplan.com. So that's PACEPLV masterplan.com, and they have quite a bit of detail as well as some videos about what they propose to do. A short version of a long story is that the current split residential arrangement with some students living in Pleasantville and some students living at the Pace Briarcliff campus will be changed so that all the residential buildings are on the Pace campus, and they will sell the Briarcliff campus using the money in part to fund the improvements. But there are many other changes proposed, as well as a new landscape plan, new roadway plans, improvements to the athletic facilities, and construction of new buildings. So interesting.
Not the Goldstein Center, they're fields.
Although there are changes to the exterior of the Goldstein Center and much better connections between the gym and the fields below. So Pace has been a good and loyal friend of the village of Pleasantville in many, many ways, and they continue to make available their facilities frequently for the Pleasantville Chamber of Commerce, and I know that there are a number of cooperative programs with the Pleasantville School District as well. So it would be, it's just an interesting project they have in mind, PACEPLVmasterplan.com. So lastly, I wanted to mention that you may be aware from comments in the press that a company called Benchmark Senior Living has been looking at the wooded parcel that is owned by the Methodist Church up on Bedford Road and Maple Hill. That would be the parcel that is adjacent to the playground where they sell Christmas trees at the holiday season. Benchmark had come forward to the community and had a neighborhood meeting, and then came and made an informal presentation in a work session here to the village board about the proposal to build an assisted living project on that site. That would require a substantial zoning change. As of the moment, we don't have anything back from Benchmark in the form of a formal proposal, and are not at the moment certain whether they will or will not be proceeding with the idea. But for those who are interested, I know many of the neighbors are very much concerned about that project on one side or the other, and we will report the moment we have any indication from Benchmark about filing a formal proposal to us. As of the moment, we have heard nothing formal from them at all, so stay tuned on that front. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Again, we have a work session a week from today, Monday, February 4, but our next regular televised meeting is 2 weeks, Monday, February 11 at 8.